What is going on, everyone on YouTube? I'm JoshSTATiX, and today I want to talk about this review of Resident Evil 2. Now, I know it's been a while since I talked about the first Resident Evil game and said I was going to do the Resident Evil 2 review. Now, I'm here, let's get straight into it. Now, if you have not seen the review of the first game, I highly suggest you to watch that video first before hopping on to here. Now, for the people who have been waiting so patiently, let's get into this review. Alright, so here's my backstory. Resident Evil 2 was the first Resident Evil game that I have ever played from the series, and to my own surprise back then, my first experience in playing this game was on the N64. I mean, I remember watching my dad playing this game a lot on the PlayStation back in the late 90s, and as a kid, I thought this game was pretty boring. I mean, I thought it was really boring. I mean, just running around, just shooting zombies, just no action or anything, but I was a kid back then. I wasn't used to that stuff because I was so used to playing games such as Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Countries. Yeah, that type of stuff. It wasn't even until the early 2000s I finally grabbed my hands on the N64 version, and it was the first Resident Evil game on the Nintendo platform, I believe. And I can say that I really enjoyed this game very much back then. So after the release of Resident Evil 1, to which it did very well in sales and ratings, Capcom started a new production on its next big entry in the series a month later. From the footage you're about to see, this is the original version of what it was going to be, and this version was dubbed as Resident Evil 1.5/Biohazard 1.5, or however, whatever you want to call it. This version featured two new characters as rookie cops, Leon S. Kennedy and Eliza Walker. The game still has its basic outline plot for the story, however the concept originally was about Umbrella shutting down as a company due to their illegal biological experiments exposed to the light by Kristen Gell. During its development process at the time, Capcom tried to bring back that same level of fear from the original game. So this time around, the development team were about up to 50 people, and that person who was leading that team was none other than Hideki Kamiya. In case you didn't know, he was a system planner of the original game, so for him developing this game, he had very big shoes to fill after Shinji Mikami, the man who directed the original game. And speaking of Shinji, he had often had creative disagreements with Kamiya in the early development of Resident Evil 2, given the fact that Kamiya was still new at directing. And even so, Shinji had tried to influence Kamiya's team with his own creative vision, but eventually he had to step down to the role of the producer with an agreement with Kamiya to see how Resident Evil 2 looked in development every couple of months. However, 13 months later, when this game was up to about 80% of its completion, that version of the game was completely scrapped. The real reason why that version was completely scrapped, according to Shinji, was that the gameplay and the locations used in the early build was dull and boring. Interesting enough, what Shinji had in mind originally was that he actually wanted Resident Evil 2 to completely end the series. However, a man who goes by the name Okamoto was like, hell no. He felt that Shinji's idea would have been a waste, and he proposed him an idea about having a series of games that are connected to one another, basically turning Resident Evil into a franchise. With a new writer who goes by the name Sugar who was moved by the first story of the original game, he pretty much reworked the entire script of the original game and pretty much made the changes that Claire Redfield was going to replace Eliza Walker to introduce a connection to Chris Redfield. With change going forward, Resident Evil 2 finally released in America in '98 and other countries as well. Biohazard 2. So, the story takes place 2 months after the events of the Mansion incident since the first game, and now we're in the midwestern town of Raccoon City. And straight to the point of what's going on, pretty much everyone has turned into zombies due to an outbreak caused by, you guessed it, the T-virus from Umbrella. Moving on, having said that, we are introduced to two new characters, Leon S. Kennedy, a rookie cop on his first day at work, and Claire Redfield, a college student who is looking for her brother Chris Redfield. They finally meet each other by the luck of faith and make way traveling to the police station to seek refuge. But an antagonist who goes by the name Obstacles got into the way, and they were immediately separated by an 18-wheeler because the person who was driving the 18-wheeler was already bitten by a zombie moments ago. And I'm gonna stop right here. Just a fair warning, I'm just giving everybody a taste of the story, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm letting you know right now I'm going into spoiler territory. So if you do not wish to be spoiled regarding the game's plot, please do yourself a favor, pause the video and skip to the non-spoiler section of the review. I've given everybody 7 seconds to skip to that part of the review and we'll get this thing rolling and cracking. Here we go.
Resident Evil.
So after Leon and Claire arrive in the police station, they pretty much find out that everyone in the police station has pretty much died and turned into zombies. Claire, after reading Chris's diary, finds out that he had left town to go find the Umbrella headquarters in Europe. After Leon and Claire finally reunited with each other in the RPD, they pretty much both agreed to look to remaining survivors left in the police station before escaping the city. Leon meets a lady who goes by the name Ada Wong, and she is looking for a boyfriend named John. You know that same John you had to input for the username and put Ada for the password RE1? Yeah, this is her. While Claire is meeting up with a young little girl who goes by the name Sherry Birkin, who was on a run from a monster supposedly. While Claire is being bad of a babysitter and not keeping hold on children, she is later greeted by Brian Irons, the chief of police of the Raccoon Police Department. And boy, after reading some diaries, it is revealed that he has been bribed from Umbrella to hide valuable evidence from certain people. Not only that, but he had a big hand in concealing their development of the G-Virus that can turn people into ultimate bioweapons. So later on throughout the plot, when Claire finds out who Irons really is, he tried to kill her, but he is immediately killed out by a G-Virus mutant, so that sucks for him. So Claire, who is now with Sherry, proceed on ahead to the sewers to where they both got separated. But before all that went on Leon's side of the party, when him and Ada got separated, Ada got in contact with Sherry, who ran away from her, and she dropped her pendant on the process. So moving on ahead back into the sewers, Ada's getting shot at from an unknown woman. But before she takes a fatal shot, Leon jumps on ahead and takes a bullet for her instead. She leaves Leon hanging unconscious and proceeds to give chase after the woman, who later reveals herself as Annette Birkin, who is the mother of Sherry Birkin and the wife of William Birkin, the main antagonist. And that explains to Ada that William is the one who created the G-Virus. So in order for him to protect his life's work, he pretty much injects himself with the G-Virus after being shot down from the Umbrella Corp agents that shot at him. And therefore, it transforming him into the monster Sherry is running away from. So after Annette finished her story about William, she noticed that Ada is wearing Sherry's pendant, and so the both of them get into a struggle and Ada gets the upper hand, and pretty much she knocks her deadbeat parent butt off the railing. Ada later takes a look at the pendant and realizes there's a G sample inside it. Moving on ahead, Leon wakes up from being unconscious and meets up with Ada, who now attends to his wounds. Earlier on, when Sherry was on her own, she falls into a garbage disposal and she is knocked unconscious. The creature, aka William, injects Sherry with an embryo. So Claire, after having a talk with Annette, knows that Sherry is injected with the embryo. Moving on ahead, Leon, Claire, Ada, and Sherry went down ahead to the Umbrella facility down from the factory. Ada gets attacked and heavily wounded by the mutated William, and Leon continues to find something to treat her wounds after fighting him. He later on gets held up at gunpoint by Annette, who pretty much spills the beans that Ada is not who she says she is. She's actually a spy sent from an unknown organization to get in a relationship with John in order to steal information about Umbrella. Just as Annette's about to pull the trigger to kill Leon, a tyrant monster appeared known as Mr. X, who's been chasing Leon the entire plot of the story, has stepped in to fight him once more again. I'll explain more about him in a second. And while Leon is continuing to fight this creature, Ada finally appears to save Leon at the cost of her own life, seemingly. And with her dying words, she confesses her love for Leon, and Leon takes it upon himself to leave her motionless body behind. I just find it stupid you fall in love with somebody even though you met them in less than 24 hours. I blame the cliche Hollywood writing. Meanwhile, Annette tries to escape with another G-Virus sample, but she gets caught off guard and heavily wounded by her mutated husband, William. After witnessing the incidents, before she can die, she tells Claire how to create a vaccine that could pretty much stop the mutations caused by the embryo in Sherry's body. With the vaccine ready and everything, Leon and Claire beat on board the emergency train to inject Sherry with the vaccine, which pretty much saves her life. Just when you thought the game was over, the mutated William, who has mutated even further beyond explanation, gets on board the train for a final showdown. But just in the nick of time, it gets killed out by the train during its self-destruction sequence, while Leon, Claire, and Sherry escaped on foot. With everything going happily ever after, Leon attempts to take down Umbrella and Claire attempts to find her brother Chris. And that's the correct story of Resident Evil 2. The reason why I said this is the correct story of Resident Evil 2, if you played the game with Claire A first and then Leon B in that order, it is canon with the storylines of the later games and the events, especially Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 6 that are connected. However, you play the game Leon A and Claire B, the storyline do follow a similar concept, but however, it just won't connect to the series continuity. So think of it as an alternate storyline. And for the people who want to know why Leon A and Claire B don't follow the series continuity, right? I put it to you like this. When Ada got shot by Anna and Leon A, she pretty much fell so many feet down to her death, there is no way in hell she could survive that. Therefore, she wouldn't be alive in Resident Evil 4. Now, for Sherry, if she had not been injected with the embryo led by her mutated father, she would not have them healing abilities in Resident Evil 6 thanks to her father due to the G virus. And there you have it. And as for my own thoughts about the story, even though the story isn't groundbreaking or anything, I actually like it, especially the setting of where it takes place at as well as the introduction of its new characters. Even though I enjoyed the previous game taking place in the mansion, I did feel it was a bit claustrophobic being there at times, especially with all this tight and narrow spaces to go through. With this game taking place mostly in a police station, I felt like I had a lot more freedom to go around this place. For the characters, I love Leon's debut in this game as a rookie cop, despite how crappy his first day at work is. I like how calm and self-willing he is to do his duty in protecting others, and so on that aspect it really makes his character really relatable as a human being. Claire's debut in this game is awesome as well, and just like her big brother Chris Redfield, she is no pushover neither, which I really love about her character. Even though she's a pretty bad babysitter, I gotta give credit for her for doing a lot of stuff on her own, without much assistance, unlike a Jill Valentine in the original game. Ada Wong is something much I can really say about her. She's just a mystery character, which could be said about her in a good way, because she does things on her own agenda, so there's something much I can really say about her. Maybe that works to her benefit, I don't know. Sherry's okay, and that's okay, and for the rest of the characters, I felt they were alright. Brian Irons, even though this guy is a real creep, I really find it creepy that he was talking about a dead lady on his desk so elegantly to Claire. That is just some creepy stuff. I mean, if I see anyone doing that in a zombie apocalypse, that is an automatic red flag and they deserve to die.
Make him pay.
Exactly. As for the plot, I think it's a really good follow to the previous installment. The bigger setting and everything else is pretty solid, and that's just my thoughts about the story. So starting off, I'm going to say that the gameplay in Resident Evil 2, to me, is a huge improvement compared to the first game. No more advantages and disadvantages differences when it comes to characters and their skill set, just only the certain weapons they carry, in which I do not mind. I like the fact that the item management system for Leon and Claire is up to 8, so that pretty much evens out the load for everyone. Also, on top of that, later on throughout the game, you have the option to upgrade your inventory management up to 10 slots if you grab a side pack, which really made my playthrough all the more enjoyable. While that may be amazing to look at, isn't this game supposed to make you feel vulnerable considering it's a survival horror? I mean, think about it. As far as health goes, I noticed in this game when your character is really hurt, you know exactly on how they move compared to the original game where you didn't really know until you constantly check your item menu to see if you were hurt or not. So in this game, it really does a good job, so it really eliminates the need to go back and forth to the item menu so constantly. The game does allow you to have weapon parts to be upgraded to your weapons to be even more powerful, such as this handgun and shotguns for example. Exploration is a major part of the key in this game, like DJ Khaled says. Says that. But hey, in all seriousness, it's very rewarding. One of the things I noticed while playing as Leon and Claire is that they don't use the same type of weapons. Leon favors the shotgun and magnum, while Claire favors his crossbow and grenade launcher. So if I had to pick between who I like the most, I had to say Leon just for the sake that I like the shotguns and magnum, just saying. Leon uses a lighter and Claire uses a lockpick, but to me, she isn't the master of unlocking like Jill. But sure enough, what I like about them is that their special skill set are automatically equipped for the playthrough for the most part. So if you're expecting anything else about this game and its gameplay being an improvement, I'm gonna tell you this right now. You're sadly mistaken. It is just like the last game, which could be looked at as a bad thing for not improving the controls. I hate to say it, but that's what it is. However, what's really new and introduced in this game is this zapping system. So basically, Leon and Claire have their own set of puzzles and storylines that happen throughout their own perspective. So put it this way, whatever happens in character A's story will have a different outcome in character B's story, and since this game has a scenario that goes from Leon A, Claire B, and Claire A and Leon B, this game has a total of 4 storylines going, which adds a great amount of replay value. I really love what Capcom did with this game, especially with the whole character perspective concept, making each playthrough different from the other. I always have to prepare when I play for scenario B, either Leon or Claire, because whoever you have to play with, you have to face Mr. X. And this guy pretty much chases you out throughout the whole entire game, and he shows up when you least expect it. You know, it was a typical day at the police station when I was walking around minding my business and oh my god! Capcom really did its thing for doing the mutated creatures justice. They really made them look scary and ugly looking compared to the original game. And even the smaller types like the lickers ain't no joke. I hate fighting them as much as I do the hunters. They can crawl up on walls making hissing sounds, especially if you don't see them, making this situation really scary on whether or not you want to move your head or not. They can jump at you doing some serious amount of damage and also smacking you in the face with his tongue. I mean, look at the sons of guns. Do they look like something you want to fight? I really don't think so. But other than that, the zombies are back and they do have a zombie looking female as well. I mean, shout out to equality, right? Dogs, birds, yada yada yada. And now it all comes down to this one particular question, and that question is this game really scary compared to the original game? In my opinion, no, not that really. I mean, sure, it has its big moments, but them big moments really are jump scares when you least expect it. I think the issue on why this game to me isn't as scary as the original is the fact that there is so much ammunition to find throughout the game, and the same goes for special weapons as well. When you give a player a lot of weapons and ammunition, I strongly feel it takes away from the experience that you're supposed to be vulnerable in a survival horror. Or maybe I'm just too much of a savage to get scared easily. But does it really make the game bad? No, not really, because it was a fun experience, and I think it's something that what Capcom does really well at, making fun games. My only other criticism is that the game's puzzles, I felt they were too easy to figure out. There wasn't really much of a challenge though, so that's just my only criticism about this game. As far as extra content go, if you get an A ranking with both Claire and Leon on a normal difficulty, you can unlock a new mode called the Fourth Survivor, where basically you play as a dude named Hunk who has to get the G-Sepal to the helipad to the police station from the sewers. It is very hard and challenging. There are no items to pick up nor safe spots, so basically you start off with what you get and you must use whatever you got necessarily to survive throughout this whole entire playthrough. And I must say that this mode is extremely hard because I died so many times playing this mode that it was infuriating. And you know what? I'm not even gonna lie. I use a cheat code for the N64 just to get the infinite health and the infinite ammo so I can see the outcome of what really happens when you survive. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm just gonna put it out there. Shoot. There is also the Tofu Survivor mode, which is pretty much the same as the Fourth Survivor, only that you have a knife and you're pretty much a moving tofu. The only way you can unlock it is playing this game 6 times on normal difficulty to get an A ranking.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Now if you have the DualShock version of Resident Evil 2, it comes with the extra mode called Extreme Battle Mode, where basically you start off with 2 characters and you must fight your way to disarm 4 bombs in the police station. Beating the game unlocks a new character and you have a total of 4. Leon, Claire, Ada, and hey look, it's Chris Redfield. Chris controls very well in this mode, especially with the big old shotgun. The Extreme Battle Mode is available to all platforms except the N64 version, but to top it all off, this game has a good amount of custom secrets to unlock if you just follow the steps the right way. I'm not going to tell you how to unlock it because you can Google it. Out of all the platforms I have played on, the N64 version is the one that differs the most. This port was developed by Angel Studios, the same people who would become Rockstar San Diego, who made games such as Red Dead Redemption. In this version, there are exclusive consoles in this version, and the blood count could be extremely high or low, and you can change the color of the blood too. What's surprising is the fact that this game has everything that was in the PS1 version, and how the hell you could fit 2 discs worth of space and fit into an N64 cartridge is really amazing. The fact that you can still play full motion pictures as well. Oh yeah, one more thing I gotta tell you. If it's one thing about this game I really do like, it's the soundtrack. I think in this game, this is one of the best soundtracks for the Resident Evil series of the classic series. Every tune I listen to, I really love and enjoy, and I think that's something to appreciate for Resident Evil 2. I just gotta point it out there. Anyways, for the full package, Resident Evil 2 is a solid game and a big improvement over its predecessor with its bigger setting and better looking graphics and a better story that connects to the first game. Gameplay wise, it could have been better, but hey. After everything I have said in this game during this review, I really do still enjoy playing this game to this day. It still has that same feeling I had when I played it many years ago, and that's what you call a work of art. I'm not going to give this game any rating because as of lately, I feel that having a number score rating to represent a game is pretty pointless nowadays due to the mindset of other people thinking that if a game is below a 7, it is completely crap, and that's a terrible mindset to look at it. I mean, look at the review scores back then compared to how they are now. I won't leave any number score ratings but words you can quote me on, because at the end of the day, we're all gamers, and that being said, Resident Evil 2 is a pretty solid game and you can quote me on that. I wonder how the remake version of Resident Evil 2 is going to be. Will it be like Resident Evil 7 how it is now in the first person? I mean, as much as I really enjoyed that game, I hope not, because there is countless Resident Evil 2 source mods on the internet you can find on YouTube. Will it be like Resident Evil 4 when it introduced over the shoulder camera view, upsetting a lot of fans who like the classic style of the games? Will it be the classic way of playing it like the old school way? It'd be nice if it gives you options or anything, but we'll find out. Hopefully Capcom may say something about this game during E3 about its announcements and everything. Well, one can hope. But anyways, everyone, that marks the end of this review, and I hope you enjoyed everything I have said. Now, the next review we're going to be looking at is Resident Evil 3. So until then, guys, you guys have a fantastic evening, and I'm out of here. Peace.